Before we dive in, drop a quick hi in the comments. It may seem small, but trust me, it really helps YouTube share this story with more sci-fi fans like us. I'd love to see who's watching.
The signal shouldn't have existed. For 3,217 years, the Galactic Archives had confirmed Earth was gone, sterilized, reduced to cosmic dust by the Velkarian Purge Fleet, in what the Galactic Council's historians now called the necessary correction. The Audiobook official records were clear, sanitized, and absolute. Humanity had been a contamination, a species too aggressive, too unpredictable, too dangerous to be allowed among the civilized races of the galaxy. But on this day, in the year 5217 by Galactic Standard Time, Chief Communications Officer Zalteth of the Council, monitoring Station Epsilon 9, stared at his console with all four of his eyes wide, in what could only be described as existential horror. The transmission was repeating over and over and over. This is UESC Marathon, broadcasting on all frequencies, to the Galactic Council and all member species. We remember, we survived, and we are coming home. Zalteth's chitinous fingers trembled as he reached for the emergency protocol beacon. The message itself was impossible, but what terrified him more was what his deep space scanners were now showing him. 73 distinct gravity signatures, each one massive enough to be a dreadnought-class vessel, dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Council space. They were in formation, military formation, and they were human. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called within the hour. 12 species, representing 400 worlds across 17 sectors, materialized as holographic projections in the Grand Assembly Hall of Nexus Prime. The chamber was an architectural marvel, a vast sphere of crystalline walls that reflected the light of 1,000 stars, designed to inspire awe and remind all who entered that they stood at the heart of galactic civilization. Today, that grandeur felt hollow. High Chancellor Mordak, a towering Velkarian whose species had led the Council for the past 2 millennia, stood at the central podium. His scales, normally a proud iridescent purple, had paled to an ashen grey. In his 3-fingered hand, he held a data tablet that displayed the impossible transmission. Honored Council members, his voice resonated through the chamber, each word heavy with an emotion his species rarely showed: fear. We face a crisis unprecedented in modern galactic history. The species we designated as threat level Omega, the species we eliminated over 3,000 years ago, has returned. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the assembled representatives. Ambassador Kelthin of the Aurorans, a crystalline being whose body refracted light into rainbow patterns, spoke first. Impossible. The Velkarian Purge Fleet glassed every human colony. We have documentation, recordings. We watched their homeworld burn. We watched a world burn, corrected Councillor Vextra, the representative of the insectoid Chitari collective. Her compound eyes glittered with analytical precision. But did we verify it was truly their homeworld? Did we confirm the total extermination? Or did we simply assume our victory was complete? The silence that followed was damning. Mordak continued, his voice strained. Long-range sensors have confirmed 73 vessels of unknown classification. Their technology is, he paused, searching for the word, advanced, significantly advanced, beyond anything in our current arsenal. They've been broadcasting their message continuously for 6 hours. They're not hiding. They're not sneaking. They're announcing themselves. What do they want? Someone asked from the back of the chamber. The High Chancellor's expression darkened. They haven't made demands. They've simply told us they're coming home, and they've provided us with coordinates. The holographic display shifted, showing a star system marked in red. Several council members recoiled. That's the Velkarian Prime system, Mordak said quietly. They're going to the homeworld of the species that destroyed Earth. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Marathon, her hands clasped behind her back, her eyes fixed on the view screen that showed the approaching council space. She was 147 years old, though her body appeared no more than 30, thanks to the advancement of human medical technology developed during the long exile. Her dark hair was pulled back in a military bun, and her uniform bore the insignia of the United Earth Space Command, a phoenix rising from ashes. It was, she reflected, perhaps too on the nose, but then again, humanity had never been known for subtlety. Status report, she commanded, her voice carrying the weight of 32 centuries of survival. Rage and purpose. Commander James Rodriguez. Her XO checked his console. The Council has mobilized their defense fleet. Approximately 300 vessels converging on the Valkyrian system. They're setting up a perimeter. 300 ships, Sarah repeated, a ghost of a smile crossing her face. They think that will stop us. To be fair, Admiral, interjected Dr. Amara Okonkwo, the ship's chief science officer, they have no idea what we're capable of. The last time they saw humanity, we were using primitive fusion drives and kinetic weapons. They don't know about quantum fold drives, adaptive shielding, or zero-point energy reactors. Sarah turned to face her senior staff. These men and women represented the best of what humanity had become. The survivors, the descendants of the 2 million refugees who had escaped Earth's destruction aboard a ragtag fleet of colony ships and military vessels. 2 million souls out of 12 billion. They're scared, Sarah said. Good. They should be. But let me be clear. Our mission is not genocide. We are not the Valkyrian Purge Fleet. We don't exterminate civilizations because we fear them. Then what is our mission, Admiral? Asked Lieutenant Commander Park, the weapons officer. Sarah's eyes hardened. Justice, acknowledgement, and a guarantee that what happened to Earth never happens to another species again. The galaxy needs to remember that we exist, that we survived, and that we will never ever allow ourselves to be erased again. She turned back to the view screen. Open a channel. Hall Council frequencies. The communications officer nodded. Channel open, Admiral. Sarah took a breath. This was the moment, the first time in over 3,000 years, that humanity would speak directly to the species that had tried to exterminate them. People of the Galactic Council, she began. Her voice calm but infused with an iron core of determination. My name is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Command. You know us as the species you tried to murder. You justified our extermination by calling us aggressive, unpredictable, and dangerous. You claimed we were a threat to galactic peace. You gave us no trial, no chance to defend ourselves, no opportunity to prove we could coexist with you. She paused, letting her words sink in across thousands of light years. You were right to fear us, but not for the reasons you thought. You feared us because we were warriors, because we had conflicts among ourselves, because we hadn't achieved your definition of civilization. But you should have feared us because of what you would make us become. On the view screen, the stars began to shift as the Marathon and her fleet dropped deeper into Council space. For 3,217 years, we have survived. We rebuilt from nothing. 2 million refugees scattered across the dark between stars, hunted by your patrols, written off as extinct. We should have died. We should have faded into cosmic dust, a footnote in your histories, but we didn't. Do you know why? The question hung in the void. Because humanity doesn't surrender. We don't accept extinction. When you burned our world, you thought you were eliminating a threat. Instead, you forged us into something new, something stronger, something that would ensure your nightmare about us would become your reality. Admiral Chen's voice grew colder. We're coming to Valkyrian Prime, not to destroy it. We're better than that. We're coming to make you remember, to make you acknowledge what you did, and to make you understand that the age of the Galactic Council, deciding which species deserves to live, is over. She signaled for the communications officer to close the channel. Now, she said quietly to her bridge crew, we wait for their response. What would you do if you were in Admiral Chen's position? If your entire species had been hunted to near extinction, would you seek vengeance or justice? Let me know in the comments below. War Leader Thalkor of the Valkyrian Grand Fleet had commanded military operations for 73 years. He had pacified rebellions, quashed pirate operations, and maintained order across a dozen sectors. He was, by any measure, one of the most experienced military commanders in Council space. None of that prepared him for this. They're not slowing down, reported his sensor officer, her voice pitched with stress. The human fleet is maintaining velocity. They'll reach Valkyrian Prime in 48 hours. Our defense fleet? Thalkor demanded, in position. 300 vessels, including 17 dreadnoughts. We have planetary shields at maximum. Ground-to-space batteries are armed, and targeting solutions are being calculated. Thalkor studied the tactical display. The human fleet was arranged in a formation he didn't recognize, 7 groups of ships, each moving in perfect synchronization. They weren't behaving like any military force he'd encountered. They were too precise, too confident. "What do our intelligence analysts say about their capabilities?" he asked. The intelligence officer, a young Velkarian named Kessler, brought up a holographic display. "It's limited, war leader. We have no recent data on human technology. Based on our historical records, they shouldn't pose a significant threat, but—" She hesitated. "But what? Our sensor readings don't match our historical data. Their ships are generating power signatures we've never seen before. Their shields appear to operate on principles outside our current understanding of physics. And their weapons," she trailed off. "Speak plainly, officer. War leader, we don't actually know if they're weapons. We can't identify what most of their systems are doing. It's like trying to analyze technology from a species 1,000 years more advanced." A chill ran down Talcor's spine. "They've been in exile for 3,000 years. How could they have advanced so far?" "Perhaps," suggested his second-in-command, "that's what happens when a species is forced to survive against impossible odds. They either die or they transcend." Talcor turned to his communication station. "Get me a direct line to the human fleet. I need to speak with their commander." The holographic image of Admiral Sarah Chen materialized on the bridge of the Velkarian flagship Retribution's Dawn. Talcor, for all his experience, felt a moment of instinctive unease. The human looked so ordinary. 2 arms, 2 legs, bilateral symmetry, soft skin, no natural armor or weapons. Yet the expression in her eyes suggested something predatory lurked beneath that unremarkable exterior. "War Leader Talcor," Sarah said, her tone neutral. "I assume you're here to threaten me." "I'm here to offer you one chance to turn back," Talcor replied, his voice firm despite his internal doubts. "Your species was eliminated because you posed a threat to galactic stability. If you continue this course, we will be forced to demonstrate why the Velkarian Grand Fleet remains the premier military force in Council space." Sarah's expression didn't change. 300 ships versus 73. "Your analysts have run the numbers. You're confident. I am. Then you're a fool." The bluntness of the statement caught Talcor off guard. "You dare—" "War leader, let me tell you a story," Sarah interrupted, her voice taking on the quality of someone sharing a fundamental truth. 3,000 years ago, humanity controlled one star system. We had colonies in our solar system, but we were confined to our cosmic neighborhood. We were divided among ourselves, yes. We fought wars. We made mistakes. But we were also explorers, dreamers, and survivors." She leaned forward. "When your purge fleet arrived, we had no warning. No time to evacuate. No chance to negotiate. You glassed our homeworld in under 6 hours. 12 billion people died. But 2 million escaped. 2 million humans scattered across the dark, hunted, desperate, and utterly alone." "That was the decision of the Council," Talcor said stiffly. "The threat assessment was wrong." Sarah cut him off again. "You feared us because we were warriors. Because we had nuclear weapons and hadn't united under a single government. You saw a species that might challenge your comfortable hegemony, and you decided the safe option was extermination." She stood up, her full height visible in the hologram. "But here's what you didn't understand about humanity, War Leader. We don't just fight when we have hope of winning. We fight when we have no hope at all. We fight when logic says surrender. We fight because fighting is who we are." The hologram flickered, and suddenly Talcor's view screen showed images. Refugee ships fleeing into the dark. Humans living in asteroid bases. Children born in the cold between stars. Generation after generation refusing to give up. "For 3,000 years we survived," Sarah continued. "We had no homeworld, no industrial base, no allies, just our minds, our determination, and our rage. And you know what we did with that?" The images shifted, showing shipyards unlike anything in Council space, laboratories conducting experiments at scales that defied comprehension, humans pushing the boundaries of science and technology with the desperate focus of a species that knew extinction was the alternative. "We advanced," Sarah said simply. "While you sat comfortable in your council chambers, secure in your superiority, we pushed ourselves beyond anything we'd been before. We had to because we knew that someday we would return. And when we did, we would be strong enough that you could never threaten us again." Talcor felt his confidence wavering. "You're bluffing. 73 ships cannot overcome 300, regardless of your technological advantages." Sarah smiled, and it was not a comforting expression. War leader, these 73 vessels aren't our entire fleet. They're not even close. These are our diplomatic ships. We brought them because they're impressive enough to make our point, but not so many that you'd be tempted to do something genuinely stupid. She leaned closer to the camera. We don't want to destroy you. We don't want to reduce Valkyrian Prime to ash. That would make us no better than you. But make no mistake, if you fire on us, if you attempt to stop us, you will learn exactly what 3,000 years of survival has taught humanity about warfare. Then what do you want? Thalcor demanded. We want what we were denied, Sarah said quietly. A voice, recognition. We want the Galactic Council to acknowledge what was done to us. We want the galaxy to remember that humanity existed, that we were murdered, and that we survived. And we want a guarantee, a real guarantee, that no other species will ever face what we faced. She paused. In 48 hours, our fleet will arrive at Valkyrian Prime. We will enter orbit. We will broadcast our testimony to every world in Council space. And you will listen. That's all. No destruction. No revenge. Just truth. And if we refuse? Thalcor asked. Then you'll learn whether your 300 ships are enough, Sarah replied. But I don't think you want to find out, do you? The hologram cut off. Thalcor stood in silence, his mind racing. Finally, he turned to his staff. Get me the High Chancellor. Now. 48 hours later, the human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel exactly on schedule. 73 vessels, each one a masterwork of engineering that defied Council understanding, arranged themselves in a perfect sphere around Valkyrian Prime. The planet was a jewel of civilization, 3 billion Valkyrians living in gleaming cities, their culture spanning 5,000 years of history. It was the heart of the species that had led the Galactic Council since humanity's extinction. Now, those 3 billion Valkyrians looked up at their sky and saw humanity's answer. Admiral Chen stood on the Marathon's observation deck, looking down at the planet below. Behind her, Dr. Okonkwo approached quietly. The Council has agreed to hear our testimony, Amara said softly. It'll be broadcast across all Council worlds. Every species in the galaxy will hear what happened to us. Good, Sarah replied. That's all we wanted. A chance to speak, to be heard. Is it, though? Amara asked. Sarah, I've known you for 70 years. I know the rage you carry, the loss. Every human in this fleet carries it. Is testimony really enough? Sarah was silent for a long moment, staring at the planet below, the homeworld of the species that had burned Earth. When we first escaped, she said finally, all I wanted was revenge. I wanted to make them hurt the way they'd made us hurt. I wanted to turn their worlds to glass and ash. I wanted them to feel what it's like to be hunted to extinction. She turned to face Amara. But then I watched our children grow up. Children born in the dark. Children who never saw a sunrise on Earth, never breathed real air, never walked on soil. And I realized, if we became monsters to fight monsters, then we'd lose more than Earth. We'd lose what made us human. So this is enough? Amara pressed. No, Sarah admitted. It's not enough. Nothing will ever be enough, but it's what we can do while still remaining who we are. We can make them remember. We can make them acknowledge their crime. And we can make sure it never happens again. She looked back at the planet. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't destroying your enemy. It's proving they couldn't destroy you. The broadcast began at dawn on Valkyrian Prime, calculated to reach across all Council worlds in their respective time zones when the most people would be watching. Every screen, every display, every communication device in civilized space carried the same signal. Admiral Sarah Chen appeared, standing not on a warship's bridge, but in a simple room. Behind her, a holographic image of Earth slowly rotated. Not Earth as it was, burned and dead, but Earth as it had been. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. My name is Sarah Chen, she began, and I am human. 3,217 years ago, my species was exterminated by order of the Galactic Council. Today I speak for all who died, and all who survived. What followed was not a military briefing or a political speech. It was a story. Sarah told them about Earth, about a species that had emerged from savagery to touch the stars in the span of a few thousand years. About the conflicts humanity fought among itself, yes, but also about the art, the music, the literature, the dreams. She showed them images recovered from the archives, children laughing in parks, couples dancing at weddings, scientists making discoveries, artists creating beauty. She told them about the day the Valkyrian purge fleet arrived, about how the first warnings came too late, about the nuclear fire that rained from the sky, about the parents who pushed their children onto the last evacuation ships, knowing they would never follow, about the 12 billion voices that went silent in a single day. They called us dangerous, Sarah said, her voice breaking slightly. They said we were too aggressive to live among civilized species. But what they really meant was that we were different, that we scared them, that they couldn't control us. She paused, composing herself. So they killed us, without trial, without negotiation, without even the courtesy of a warning. They decided we didn't deserve to exist, and they tried to make it so. The image behind her changed, showing the refugee fleet, 2 million survivors in ships never meant for deep space, fleeing into the dark. But we survived, Sarah continued. We survived because that's what humans do. We survive impossible odds. We endure the unendurable. We refuse to give up even when giving up is the only logical choice. She told them about the long exile, about children born in the cold between stars, about the generation ships that became our worlds, about the desperate struggle to maintain our technology, our culture, our humanity, when everything had been taken from us. We could have become something terrible, Sarah admitted. We could have let our rage consume us. We could have spent these 3,000 years building weapons of revenge, becoming the monsters you feared we were. Some of us wanted to. God knows some of us wanted nothing more than to return and show you what true horror looks like. Her expression softened. But we didn't, because we remembered who we were. We remembered that humanity at its best was more than war. We were explorers, dreamers, survivors, and we refused to let the species that tried to kill us define what we would become. The images shifted again, showing human settlements hidden in the dark between stars, cities built inside asteroids, habitats in the void, generations of humans living, loving, learning. We're not here for vengeance, Sarah said firmly. We're here for acknowledgement. We're here to make sure the galaxy remembers that we existed, that we were murdered, and that we survived. She leaned forward, looking directly into the camera. To the Galactic Council, to the Valkyrians, to every species that approved or ignored our extermination. You were wrong. You were wrong to fear us, wrong to judge us, wrong to decide we didn't deserve to exist. And you're wrong if you think we'll ever let it happen again, to us or to anyone else. The hologram of Earth behind her began to transform. The burned world healing, rebuilding, becoming a new planet, different from Earth, but alive and thriving. We're coming home, Sarah concluded. Not to our old world that's gone forever, but to our place in the galaxy. We're taking our seat at the table you tried to deny us. We're claiming our right to exist, and we're making sure that no other species will ever face what we faced. She stood tall. The age of the Galactic Council deciding who deserves to live is over. The age of humanity begins now. Remember us. Remember what you did to us. And remember that we're still here. The transmission ended. In the days that followed, the galaxy erupted. Some species called for military action against the humans. Others demanded answers from the Council about how the extermination had been approved. Still others began questioning what other necessary corrections had been carried out in the name of galactic peace, but the most significant response came from the smaller species, the ones who had always feared they might be next. 14 civilizations, minor powers in council space, sent secret transmissions to the human fleet. They wanted to meet, to talk, to learn how humanity had survived. In the council chambers, High Chancellor Mordak stood before his peers, his scales now permanently ashen. "We cannot undo what was done," he said quietly. "We cannot bring back the 12 billion humans who died, but we can acknowledge it. We can admit our mistake, and we can ensure it never happens again." The vote was not unanimous. The Valkyrian delegation abstained, but it passed. The Galactic Council formally acknowledged the extermination of humanity as an unlawful act. They created the Sapient Rights Accord, guaranteeing every species the right to defend their existence before any punitive action could be taken. It wasn't justice. Not really. But it was something. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the garden pod of the Marathon, tending to a small tree. It was a sapling grown from seeds preserved from before the purge, one of the few living links to Earth that had survived the long exile. "It's growing well," observed Dr. Okonkwo, joining her in the garden. "Another year and we might actually get fruit from it." "An Earth apple tree," Sarah mused, "growing in space, tended by humans who've never seen Earth. It's fitting. Somehow, the Council has formally invited us to establish an embassy on Nexus Prime," Amara reported. "They're offering us full membership rights. No provisional status. No probationary period. What's the catch?" Sarah asked. "We have to agree not to pursue legal action against the Valkyrians for the purge. They're calling it moving forward for the sake of galactic peace." Sarah was quiet for a long moment, her hands resting on the tree's slender trunk. "What do you think we should do?" "I think," Amara said carefully, "that we didn't survive for 3,000 years just to let them sweep it under the rug. But I also think we didn't survive just for revenge. We survived to live, to be more than our trauma." Sarah nodded slowly. "Accept the embassy. Accept the council seat. But make it clear, crystal clear, that we will never forget. We'll establish a memorial, a remembrance. We'll make sure every generation of humans knows what happened and why we can never let it happen again." "And the Valkyrians?" "We'll work with them," Sarah decided. "We'll sit in the same chambers. We'll negotiate. We'll trade. But we'll never trust them. And we'll never stop reminding them what they did." She looked up at the stars visible through the garden pod's transparent ceiling. "We came back for acknowledgement, not annihilation. We got what we came for. Now we do the harder thing. We build a future." Amara smiled. "When do we start?" "We already have," Sarah replied, gesturing to the apple tree. "One seed at a time. One day at a time. That's how humanity has always rebuilt. That's how we'll do it now. So what do you think happened next? Did humanity thrive in council space? Did they ever truly forgive the Valkyrians? Or did old hatreds eventually resurface? The thing about humanity is this: we're survivors. We endure, we adapt, we overcome. When the Galactic Council tried to erase us, they thought they were eliminating a threat. Instead, they forged us into something stronger than they could imagine. We returned not with weapons of mass destruction, but with something far more powerful: our story, our truth, our refusal to be forgotten. That's the real HFY moment. Not conquering the galaxy through force, but surviving when survival should have been impossible. Not destroying our enemies, but proving they couldn't destroy us. If you enjoyed this story of humanity's return after 3,000 years of exile, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. Would you have chosen vengeance or justice? Could you have shown the same restraint Admiral Chen did? Subscribe for more epic HFY science fiction stories where humanity proves that we're the most stubborn, persistent and unbreakable species in the galaxy. We upload new stories every week exploring what makes humans truly special among the stars. Until next time, remember, humanity doesn't surrender. We don't accept extinction. We survive, we adapt, and we always come back. This has been the last transmission. Thanks for watching.